Greetings, I'm Shad, and I'm fairly confident that everyone who has clicked on this video has some type of thought or expectation on what this video contains. Now, because you actually haven't watched this video and don't definitively know what I'm going to be talking about in every single part of the subject I'm addressing, your current view is a preconception. You might expect this video to be good, you might expect it to be horrible, but you won't truly know until after you watch it. Because the idea of a preconception is a thought, an idea, or an opinion that has been formed based on incomplete information or before the proper amount of research has been done to justify and or confirm the view that you have. Now, if you have watched any of my videos before, you would kind of get an idea of what to expect out of this video. But in regards to things that you have never heard about or experienced, most preconceptions we have are formed based on the things we hear our friends or acquaintances say. These are people we like, we generally trust them, and when they say something very casually about this or that we don't have any information on previously, we will generally accept that information as correct. Well, I have a personal experience that really taught me the danger in just listening and trusting people without pausing and showing an appropriate level of skepticism. And it was about the character of a friend of mine. Because we can form preconceptions about people, opinions about individual people, as well as ideas, ideologies, and things like that. So I was hanging out with a group of acquaintances, and in the course of the conversation, they started talking about someone I knew, and they made comments in regards to his character and actions that he had done that they found to be very inappropriate. Now, they only knew this person by reputation, whereas I knew this person personally, and I considered him one of my friends. And because I knew who this person was, I understood what his moral character was. I knew this person, and I knew that what they were saying could not have been correct. Not in a million years would my friend have ever have done what they were claiming he did. I didn't need to ask him, I didn't need to double check, I knew this guy. And I admit, sometimes people can surprise you, but in this case, not a chance. And I told these acquaintances this, not a chance, he would have never have done that. I know the guy, what you're saying is a rumour, untrue. You might want to double check your facts before you start spreading rumours about someone you don't really know. Now, what I found really interesting about this experience was that if I didn't know this person, and I heard the comments about him just offhandedly by these acquaintances, how would I have honestly regarded this guy? The only thing I have ever heard about him was something negative, and it came from acquaintances that I generally trusted, and I knew the very first time I would have met him, if I didn't know him beforehand, the first thing that I would have thought of would be the only thing I've ever heard about this guy, and it would be a negative thing, and it would honestly have affected my interaction with him. That really ticked me off, and it demonstrated in a very real way how damaging and effective unsubstantiated offhanded comments can be. And this is generally how most people gather information about subjects. This is how preconceptions are formed. And ever since then, I've been particularly aware, and I've mentally conditioned myself to be aware of this, that when I hear anything about anything that I haven't heard of before, to not accept it as truth until I double check it. And if there's not a way for me to substantiate these facts, well then it goes in the rumor category. It is not fact or truth. And honestly, to this day, ever since then, it has bothered me to no end when I hear comments about someone that I don't know, even from people I trust not. It bothers me because I know when I do eventually meet these people, the only thought that I will have of this person would be what was mentioned. And of course, it more particularly bothers me when it's something negative, because they're not there to defend themselves, and I don't really have too much of an issue when it's positive, because I don't mind things influencing me to treat other people that I don't know or haven't met yet in a better way than I would have if I didn't know anything about them. So positive things, I don't have too much of an issue with. So really, I personally believe we shouldn't consider our opinions firm or set in stone ever until we have done the appropriate level of research, okay? Until then, our opinions should be very open to change. And even after that, if we think we have done all the research, we should still be open to having our views be challenged. Now, you might have done your appropriate level of research, and if you have, I would more expect as a result of that, that you would then understand and sympathize with those you disagree with and not think them idiots, because you would understand how legitimate, intelligent people could hold those views and see that it is just justified. The best way that I've ever found to be able to tell if you understand something that you disagree with is if you could defend that view you disagree with as proficiently as any intelligent person who holds that belief. And unless you can do that, you do not properly understand the thing you oppose. And if you don't properly understand the thing you oppose, then guess what you have? A preconception and not really a valid substantiated opinion. And if you wish to have any claim on intellectual honesty, you should not form definitive conclusions or judgments based on incomplete information. I'm not saying you can't have tentative opinions. We just need to acknowledge the fact that we have a higher probability of being wrong because we don't fully understand the thing we're looking at. Now everyone, myself included, holds preconceived ideas about so many things, alright? We can't really avoid that because we're not going to study everything in depth no matter, on every single subject that we ever hear about. Most opinions that we have been formed out of incomplete information. What I really feel we need to do is acknowledge that we honestly don't know the full picture and be willing to keep the doors open on our conclusions regarding those subjects. Admit if the things that you have heard just came from offhanded remarks from your friends or other people, or you heard them from some random idiot on the internet named Shad. Understand that those things are at best opinions, or at worst, rumors. And even though I included myself in a flippant, joking way when I said that, I do mean it. Don't believe anything I say just because I was the one who said it. I really appreciate that so many people have come to trust my opinion and regard me with a certain level of credibility, but guys, the only credibility I deserve in regards to the things that I say is the pure logic and evidence that I use to explain my views. And even then, that doesn't mean I am right. I'm a human, and humans have proven time and time again how good we are at getting things wrong. So based on that fact alone, you should never take anything I say as definitively correct. Let the things I say inform your own opinions, as well as other people who feel like sharing something that they feel to be legitimate on the subject. And then form your own opinions. And if it just so happens to be the same as one of the things I believe in too, then you can say you came to that on your own intelligence, not because I said so. A big reason why I have such firm and strong views regarding preconceived notions and ideas is because one of the personal ideologies and beliefs that I ascribe to that has such a profound level of misunderstanding in regards to it. The things I have heard, the falsities, the fallacies, the inaccuracies that people honestly believe about this is astronomical. And because I more like to look at the root of the issues, I don't like to get hung up on just, people don't understand something that I believe in, but I try to then reflect that on myself and approach other views, thoughts, ideologies, and ideas the same way that I wished other people would approach my beliefs. As I shared in my video entitled, What If You Are Wrong?, I am unwilling to form an opinion on Scientology until I properly research it and talk with a Scientologist. I'm not saying my opinion might be any different to the things that I've heard offhandedly, by other people and the rumor mills and other stuff like that, but it's unjust for me to form an opinion based on rumors, especially without hearing about the ideology, the opinion, the belief from someone who holds that belief. Remember, to understand the thing you disagree with properly, you should be able to defend that thing you disagree with as proficiently as any intelligent person who holds that belief. And I definitely can't do that with Scientology yet. So what is this belief of mine that so many people misunderstand? Well, before I tell you what that is, let's set up a test as well, okay? Because I want you to honestly pay attention to your reaction to when I tell you what it is. Because this is very likely to trigger whatever opinion or bias or even prejudice you might already have regarding this belief, whether it's a negative prejudice or an unfair positive prejudice. Will you dislike me more because of this, or like me more? And let me rephrase that. Will you be pleased that I have this belief, or will you be displeased because it's something that you personally strongly disagree with? What is it? Well, it is religion. Of course it would be religion. But when I say I'm religious, I don't mean I'm just religious. I mean, I'm actually very, very religious. I am a Mormon, okay? A full-fledged Mormon. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I've served a full-time 2-year mission for my church. I've been what many people would understand as being a pastor over a congregation. We have different terms, of course. And this is a very, very big part of my life. Now, be honest with yourself. what was your reaction to learning this thing about me? I don't blame anyone for being upset about this or being pleased about hearing this thing about my beliefs, because you can't honestly control your reactions. What you control is what you do after you have the reaction. Now, I will share you an example that I have had in learning something about someone else that I had a negative reaction with that I honestly had to exercise willpower to overcome. And it's funny, in telling you this, it might be another thing that you find you dislike about me, because it's in regards to someone I enjoy listening to, and you might hate this person. His name is Steven Crowder from Louder with Crowder. I honestly really enjoy listening to his, stuff on YouTube. And in one of his shows, he offhandedly remarked that he has a big problem with Mormons. And I'm a Mormon.
But I don't really go after Buddhism, Scientology as much. Even Mormonism, with which I really disagree.
And so, effectively, I learned that someone that I enjoy and like has a big problem with something I believe in. But my honest reaction to that wasn't very positive. That upset me. You don't like learning that people you like have a big issue with something that you believe in, that you identify with as something very important in your own life. And so I'm no different to you guys, okay? Everyone has these reactions. What we need to do then is use our willpower and choose what we will do after that reaction. And my choice was, I don't care. I still like the guy, and I still enjoy listening to everything that he talks about. And even though we clearly strongly disagree on some very fundamental beliefs, that doesn't mean he isn't worth listening to or that his opinions aren't worth considering. And after a day or two, doesn't bother me at all. I've completely gotten over it. I'll have a joke with him about it if I ever happen to meet the guy. And I can honestly say now that I enjoy him just as much as I ever have before. It is absolutely possible to like people who have fundamental disagreements and differences in regards to your beliefs and ideologies. And so, as a Mormon, it's amazing the amount of misconceptions and just flat out bullcrap there is out there in regards to Mormons and what we believe. It's amazing. And I have met very, very few people, I think I could count them on one hand, okay, who actually had a fair and accurate enough understanding about Mormons and Mormonism, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who were not Mormons. Most people, when I say most, I really mean most people, like, 98, 99% of people who are not Mormons, most of the facts and information and things I've ever heard about Mormons is either horribly incorrect or horribly out of context. And I'm saying that from my own experiences. I hope that it will change, but I choose to not let that affect how I regard other people. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is to point out the very real personal bias that everyone has, and the preconceived opinions and ideas everyone has really about every subject, including Mormonism. Because I guarantee, whatever you've heard about Mormons in the past, you're now applying it to me. Does that mean Shad believes this or does this? That's what people do. Well, now it's time to put into practice some of the things that I've talked about. What have you heard that honestly are rumors? How much do you really know is accurate in regards to the things you've heard about Mormons? And now apply that to everything. It's a large task, but I truly believe this is something that we need to do. The easy option, okay, instead of actually confronting the views or opinions that disagree with the things that you believe, is to just belittle and vilify the people who are disagreeing with you. That's what cowards do, okay? I don't need to listen to you because you're a bigot or you're an idiot. Everyone who disagrees with this belief that I hold is therefore must be an idiot, and it's just a cowardly defense mechanism that I'm using to avoid confronting my own beliefs. And for some reason, I'm almost expecting that some of you guys who are watching this, not all of you, I'd hope that none of you would do this, but human nature, okay? I'm really expecting some of you guys to say, well, Mormons never do what he just said. They never confront their own beliefs because their beliefs are just so full of crap. Well, if that was one of your honest reactions, I think it's time for you to truly reflect upon how you view things that you disagree with. Because if I, Shad Brooks, am a rational person and choose to only believe in things that fully convince me and totally make sense in my mind, and at the same time I'm a Mormon, that must mean that Mormonism can make logical sense. And if it doesn't make sense in your mind, then you clearly don't understand it in the same way that I do, and therefore you could never convince me to change my views because you can never approach my opinions in the point of view and context that they are held. Now, I'm sorry if I've been a little distracting with telling you I'm a Mormon or anything like that. I've only done it to emphasize the point that I'm trying to make, and it's not something I hide either. Anyone who asks me, I happily tell them. It's just, honestly, it just hasn't come up in the course of the subjects that I've talked about thus far. But like I said, I bring it up to point out the thing that I'm talking about here. Most of the opinions that we hold about beliefs, ideologies, lifestyles, and the people who ascribe to them are mostly based on incomplete information. If you get annoyed with religious people, with atheists, with men's rights activists, with feminists, with the left, with the right, because you legitimately think that most people who ascribe to those views are idiots or bad people, pig-headed, blinded, unreasonable, and use the opinion you have of the people who ascribe to those views as a justification to not listen to them, that is an indication that perhaps you haven't been willing to confront what the opposing side has actually been saying. Because ascribing to one of these ideologies, beliefs, or political parties does not instantly make someone an idiot. It doesn't instantly make them unreasonable or pig-headed. Don't get me wrong, people are very capable of idiocy. I'm one of them. I'm also capable of being pig-headed and unreasonable. And so is anyone who believes in anything. The thing that we really should understand is that even the most unreasonable person is still capable of being reasonable, of having an intelligent discussion about something. So instead of having an opinion that is based off of incomplete information and then trying to discredit and undermine the credibility of those who oppose that view to avoid having to confront your own beliefs, how about we actually try and understand the opposing view to the level of those who ascribe to that belief or ideology or political view or whatever. And you might say, I don't need to understand their beliefs, it's their job to defend their beliefs, not mine. Well then, if you can't understand the opposing view, how on earth do you know if it's wrong?